All right, people, welcome back to Anon of the Week. We have our guest from last week, Ninguis, who wanted to talk about nihilism, and we're just going to get into that topic in particular. If you're interested in it, stay tuned. Ninguis, you there?
Oh, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to talk yet.
Oh, yeah, it's fine.
Uh, I think nihilism is a very interesting topic in today's world because I think that I agree with Soren on this. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but where he was talking about like an age of leveling. But I think we can get into that a little bit later.
Well, we can get into that right away if you want.
Oh, okay, so basically Soren's idea of nihilism,
Oh, you're
like an
kind of
age.
roboting.
Maybe
Hold on
that's
a sec.
because I'm having the stream up.
Oh, yeah, yeah, just like pause it and just look at chat. I don't think
Oh,
yeah, you don't have to watch it. And nothing else, nothing's going on. Just me and a dog bowl being a
yeah.
bulldog.
All right. So should I just start over then?
Yeah, just pause the stream and just talk about Soren and leveling for the audience.
Uh, so Sauron basically came up with this idea of nihilism, where you needed leveling, which is basically the suppression of the individual to such an extent that the individual's uniqueness in life doesn't matter, and that's basically what I think is happening today, which is why nihilism is becoming so prevalent, is because we basically went around the world, and I mean, it is partly due to our own creation of this. We run around the world kind of spreading our own ideas everywhere, and through that, we kind of kickstarted this age of leveling.
Well, yeah, by leveling for the audience, he means basically the guest volume is pretty low. Okay, hold on, let me turn that up a bit. The by leveling, he means that everything is relatively worth the same. So everyone's ideas, every culture of every civilization is the same value. None are better than each other, and when you have this on a societal level, it levels everything, and nobody is special, and thus no morality can seemingly exist.
Even farther than that, the end state of leveling would basically be everybody is basically the same. Not even in like a legal sense, but in like just a personal sense. Everybody acts the same. Everybody behaves the same. Everybody believes the same. That's the end goal of leveling. And we both kind of agree with Nietzsche's. That's his name either. God damn, I'm retarded. But we agree with him that you need nihilism to come about so that you can overcome it to become
Well,
like a
I
stronger
don't think you
person.
need nihilism, but he what he means is Nietzsche is that empiricism has caused the nihilistic crisis, which is there is no greater meaning, no greater metaphysical, moral, or anything tying people or things down to some higher authority. And it's been like what hundreds of years. Nobody's come up with like a concrete answer to the nihilistic outlook caused by empirical scientific research, and this is just because that's inevitable. Uh, then Nietzsche argues that it is up to the individuals then to overcome this spiritually and mentally, and then live morally and righteously without the need for some greater metaphysical truth or moral. And it's definitely tough.
Yeah, for sure. Especially as people like me and you who are atheists and such, we've already moved away from the church, and I know personally I've dealt with nihilism and still to this day I do. You have those days where you just slip back into like the black pill and all that stuff where you just think nothing matters because you can't do anything. But you really just have to get yourself out of those to become like a better person.
Well, yeah, the uh, solve you can solve it a number of ways. You can choose to lower your standard for empiric evidence and accept one of the many religions. People do that all the time, either consciously or subconsciously. And then Either that, or you could just believe in some vague answer to make yourself feel better. But honestly, I think it stems more on just mentally managing the existential dread and then just being immoral despite it. Like it's just something people can get over, I feel.
Can you say that again? Because I had someone yell at me.
Oh, I was saying that you don't necessarily need to do something like adopt some religion to fill your nihilistic void. You can ignore it. You can mentally train yourself to not have existential problems because of it, and then just live morally despite it. And that's it. Just takes some self control, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of it comes from discipline, which this world very much lacks today. Uh, but nihilism today, I think, has been perverted away from Nietzsche's view,
Yeah.
uh, where instead of because Nietzsche basically wanted he actually welcomed the coming of nihilism so that it could perish faster. Um, but they've they've only taken like half the step, and they think that's basically all there really is. Instead of overcoming the rest of the nihilism, they instead replace that with hedonism, which
Yes.
leads to a degenerating society.
So yeah, once you're in the nihilistic crisis, the easiest and most common way to solve it, and you'll see this in our current generation all the time, is just people will become the biggest hedonist faggot that they can be. Just do all the drugs, drink all the time, have all the sex, constant fucking dopamine kicked into the head all the time, and just making it basically fucking orgy porgy, Brave New World shit to solve their nihilistic crisis. And that's just not a solution. Like long term, it's not a solution. Like it'll break down society. You need to be moral despite the fact there is no higher power.
Well, yeah, with all that hedonism and stuff, it's like that temporary patch that you would take, whenever you're getting off of smoking or something like that. It's just it's temporary, which is why a lot of these people who can't come up with answers even after the hedonism end up killing themselves, which is why you see our suicide rates even around the world in Western civilizations are just skyrocketing right now.
Well, there's a number of reasons for that as well, but the main one being that there's no greater metaphysical, moral, or anything tying people down to work in society. And then once they don't get if they don't get a good deal and they're struggling, they just have no reason to continue.
Yeah, they seem to think of society as like unfair, that like you're either born into the luck now, or you can't do anything, and you might as well off yourself.
Yeah.
Uh, but trying to think of where to go.
Yeah, the
um,
suicide rate was much lower when things were tougher and people had to have the will to do all this stupid shit but without the technology and all the systems and the government aid and all this.
yeah, I think free time also adds to the nihilistic tendencies too, um, because a lot of people aren't really just spending their time actually doing any time with the free time they do have. They're kind of just sitting there, letting themselves rot in that.
Yeah, and that's even I myself, who had like a fucking degenerate hermit lifestyle. Like I wasn't being hedonistic, but I was definitely just being a fucking degenerate soy boy who just would indulge myself in media all the time. Uh, you got to learn how to truly get fulfilled from creative and constructive goals on your own. And a lot of people will not ever be able to do that, and that's why when they fall out of the social uh, the social sort of pathway, then they just become very depressed, nihilistic, and they just can't do anything. But you definitely, honestly, people got to understand when you have all this free time, it is actually a blessing because there's nothing more valuable than time. The money, time is the most valuable commodity. It's equally valuable to every person, no matter how rich or poor you are. And if you have free time, you have something that people work fucking their entire lives to try to build up to a comfortable fucking amount of free time. So if you have free time, you have something very valuable. You should look to use it in such a way that would produce value for yourself mentally.
Yeah, talking about the fulfillment angle, which is why I follow more in Plato's philosophy, that society should basically be geared towards creating people who feel fulfilled at least. If not, they are truly fulfilled to some degree. Um, but where was I going with that? Holy shit! I'm sorry.
Goal of society fulfilling people.
Yeah, that where basically Plato was like, not to get too much into his philosophy whenever we're talking about nihilism, but I don't think people are feeling fulfilled today because of our corporate structure that is, constantly destroying people's will.
Well, yeah, there's the suppression of thought and speech required to work at in these successful sort of office spaces. The majority of the time, you have to, kowtow, and you got to be a squeaky clean representative of the brand and the product. It's like the commercialization of people, because the national culture and will has sort of been destroyed. Uh,
Well, yeah, that leads back into the leveling idea where through just your job alone, you can be suppressed to the point where you have to follow these people or else your life could be ruined.
yeah, and so it's the sometimes, well, it's not, none of it's coerced. You can technically go live in
Well,
the fucking
it,
woods in a tent if you really
it's
wanted to.
not overtly
It's
coerced, but
not.
it
It's
is.
implicitly coerced for a
Yeah.
reasonable expectation of material comfort. You have to suppress yourself, your thoughts, your actions constantly to appease a standard set out that is mostly set on appealing this imaginary sort of ideal consumer that must not be offended and must continue supporting the firm. And so because we don't have a sort of a high trust homogeneous culture, this problem is very extrapolated, and people just are reduced to like a very narrow view on like life and what's the acceptable things you can say, and this some people can live with that. I personally cannot, and then they obviously they get depressed or they cope.
Yeah, the problem is that a lot of those coping mechanisms, end up actually harming the people around them, even if it's not like overtly. It is, subtly destroying society.
Yeah, and so despite being a fedora tipper, I think we would all be better off if we lived in a all Christian society or something. Like we
Yeah,
all,
some higher belief system,
yeah,
which is, I mean, that's what Nietzsche was trying to do for most of his life. He was trying to find the answer to nihilism,
yeah,
and it's ironic that he spent his entire life trying to find the answer to it, and people today think that he himself was a nihilist.
yeah. Well, they just don't understand. Nihilism isn't a stance. It's just the current predicament. It is the truth of the world right now, and you have to solve it. You can't ignore it. You can try to ignore it, but you have to solve it in a productive way. And and just deny it exists is not a way. I mean, you can't. I guess you can deny its existence, and that's what people do with various metaphysical religious models and such. But uh, if if you look back in history, there was all these people who were god kings, and they had like priesthoods who would cast spells, and that would affect the harvest. And I'm if you look back in the history, I'm sure a good number of these leaders didn't actually believe that they were god kings or that the priesthood actually had powers. Because once you're in that king position, you see that there's no fucking magic shit helping you. You're just the fucking king. Uh, so it's been the way since the start that the plebeian masses are given a metaphysical model, and then this is used as the moral basis for the rulership to keep things under control, keep things running smoothly, keep people's will in check. And since we no longer have that, we just have chaos.
Oh yeah, that is like talking about Rome and stuff. That is kind of why they adopted Christianity. Whenever you're talking about like kings and such, they basically adopted it to keep the peasants in line. This idea of sacrificing in this world so that you're rewarded in the next world was great for thousands of years, but now it's falling apart under current day skepticism.
Well, it's us is the problem too. Is because of because we educate everybody now in attempts to make them a more productive employee and to produce more tax money for the government. That's why we all have all these schools and stuff. Is people they fundamentally want more tax money going to the government. That's the end goal. Because we do this and we give away all this knowledge for free without any regard for like social cohesion or any of this other stuff, and because it's advanced to such a point that any random high schooler can definitely come to like an atheistic, nihilistic, fucking conclusion pretty easily just from the information presented. And because of this, there's not really a good way to go back to like a unified metaphysical model, something like Christianity, and it's just it's an enigma of a problem. It's very hard to solve.
Yeah, it's this is why I want to go back to going back to Soren. He thought it would be very interesting to live in a time of leveling, because you would actually be able to sit there and work out the problem in that. But he ultimately thought that a time of leveling would destroy humanity, basically, like destroy their will to live and such.
Yeah. All right. Someone in the chat said, "Do you guys think having no new lands to explore or settle plays a part? Are we just idling by, waiting to explore the stars the way the men explored the seas?" Well, I would say that the definitely whenever there is a new frontier, people who are dissatisfied young men and women can just go out and they settle the frontier. And when they're struggling to appease people and kowtow and climb the stupid ladder that involves appeasing all these other elite people, the more independent people are gonna jump out and they're gonna go on the frontier, even if it's really tough, even if it's fucking very dangerous. But since there is no frontier, we just have these giant masses of restless males and females in all society that just have nowhere to fucking go, and they just sit there and stew in their anger.
Yeah, this is what I was getting at with like fulfillment and stuff. Like some people, for fulfillment, they need to basically feel like they're doing something for the world. In today's society, you really just feel like a cog in the machine. You're not really doing anything. And this is what I found interesting about your talk with Diogenes and that the other day, was talking about decentralization of very, very small communities and stuff. Like in these small communities, and I'll talk more about like Epicureanism and stuff later, dealing with this. You can basically feel more fulfilled without having like this national media level where you just kind of feel like you're just a small piece. And
Well, yes, it's sort of what the MGS2 talks about. Everyone goes into their gated communities, accepts their own truths, and feels comforted even if the broader society is crumbling around them.
Yeah, I mean that's why white gated communities exist now. Is everyone truly wants to just be with their own kind, but even to a greater
They don't
extent,
admit it on a broader level.
Well, I think the problem is they feel they can't, because
Oh yeah,
it's a lot like 1984, where you're like looking over your shoulders, like seeing who's gonna tell like society on you. Like people feel they can't trust anyone nowadays too.
and you really can't. Like you can't know for sure whether somebody is deluded enough by the zeitgeist to simply try to destroy your life for saying something off kilter, or they're just a person just trying to get by lying about it so they can receive their paycheck and their material goods. And so it's just like the fucking the Gulag Archipelago when what's his name? Fucking I think it is the same author you're talking about, Soren. He talks about how like people will just betray each other for some trinkets, and nobody can trust each other because of it. Because there's always a central actor. In this case, it's a sort of you're an evil racist, sexist, bigot, whatever the fuck. Anyone if you're threatened with that, then it's basically like you're living in fucking communist. Yeah, I can't pronounce it. So it's Solzhenitsyn. I don't fucking know how to pronounce it.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, it's like not dissimilar to people who lived in the USSR, where you had to be producing for the state and not being a market person. Similarly, you cannot be a race realist or somebody who mildly just doesn't believe in the state line. Otherwise, you get thrown out your ass from the social benefit.
Yeah. Bringing this back to like Christianity and such, because I just thought more about this. I think one of the biggest problems with like having this widespread religion literally everywhere is that whenever it does start to crumble, it starts to crumble everywhere, which affects society on the entire level. I don't even know why I thought of this, but
So you're saying because it's widespread, when the religious structure crumbles, everything goes fucking mad because it wasn't
yeah, and then
decentralized.
not only decentralizing religion, but to the point that our society basically has the foundings of of Christianity and such. Whenever people backlash just against Christianity, they also kind of see it as backlashing against society in some
Yeah,
twisted way in their
history.
mind.
And, well, it is kind of true. And that if you're just attacking Christianity not on like its goofy metaphysical models, but on like a cultural basis, and trying to like destroy its cultural social proof, you're just trying to basically deny the history of the United States, and by proxy, you're trying to destroy the cultural boundings of the United States itself.
Yeah, like how racism and stuff, like not even with the 1984 stuff, it's basically just become today's heretics.
Yes,
Um,
it's a religion,
eh,
if you will. It's a cult.
yeah, it's basically Christianity to in a very twisted mindset, which is kind of ironic because so many of these
Well,
people
there's
would
nothing
rail
Christian
against
about
Christian.
it.
Well, no, I think they're still coming from a Christian founding.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm not talking about like believing in God and stuff. I'm talking about like the moral framework
I don't think. I
that.
think that's a misrepresentation. I don't think Christianity. Well, what you're saying because it's radical egalitarianism is stemming from Christianity's egalitarianism.
No, not exactly. I think you basically have like all the pieces that are kind of lined up, like the god of equality and like democracy and all that. You basically have the demons, which are the race realists, the people who care about white issues and all this stuff. They're basically the demons and the heretics of today's world. I honestly think that this is just
Well,
an
you're
evolution
right
of.
that structurally it is not dissimilar to Dark Ages Catholicism, in how it like white privilege is literally original sin. It's like the same thing.
Well, I
Uh,
don't even think that it's. I don't even think it's that. I think a lot of these people in their mind truly believe in the white man's burden still. Uh, they
well,
think
I
that
no, I don't even
because.
think they understand it because if they did, then that would be admitting a number of things that would break up their cultish beliefs.
Well, like how with original sin, the only way to get rid of it is to praise Jesus. The only way to get rid of original sin today with white privilege would be to care for black people and such.
Well, yeah, it's to cuck yourself to minorities and barbarian worship. It's barbarian worship. They worship these groups of these cultural groups of people who, if you look on the scale of history and philosophy and fucking actual accomplishments, they've accomplished nothing at all to be worthy of any praise. Uh, and the academics will go around and they'll find like a cave drawing or the fucking some stupid retarded practice socially they in their modern social society and then like do this nice write up on it and say, oh, this is their culture and it's so great and interesting and it's only being suppressed by the colonialists. But no, it's just these are shitty cultures that got their ass kicked. There's nothing there of value, and that's just the truth. And in order to atone, people just discard that and worship a barbarian fucking values.
Well, with the barbarians, I think just looking at the Zulu kingdom, you can basically tell that they wouldn't have gone far even if we didn't take them over.
Yeah.
But people seem to forget that the Zulu kingdom was never conquered by Europeans, except for I think it was like 2 years by France at most. Um, but whenever you start pointing out these inconsistencies, they close down like a religion. Uh, they basically turn into that glossy-eyed creationist who won't admit
Yeah,
that the
they won't
world
admit
is.
their. Well, it's fucking funny because they admit white privilege exists. That admits that there are differences between the races, but the differences are not such as that they would ever justify discrimination. Because if you
Well,
admit
I don't think.
difference,
Hang on,
then
I don't think they are admitting difference. I think
they
they're
are admitting
what they're
difference.
claiming is.
Difference is actually fundamental to their belief.
Well, I think the biggest problem is that they think they think that we're noticing these differences, but they think that it's just societal differences. With their denial of genetics and stuff to the point that it's basically absurdity. Where I was arguing with someone the other day who denied that the IQ gap even existed. It's
Yeah.
it's honestly crazy.
Well, yeah, well, that is another thing. Yeah, they blame everything on society, and a good portion of it is social. But it doesn't matter if it's social or genetic. It's something you have to deal with realistically. You can't like even if it's all social, you can't just treat everybody equally when they are different statistically speaking. Like that's just not a thing you can do. Uh,
Well, they've basically convinced themselves that if everyone was treated equally, everything would be equal, which is
so
basically
yeah, all nurture.
the communist
Nurture is
Freudian.
the communistic. All nurture is all you need, and we could all live in a utopic peaceful society if we just brainwash everybody to be all get along. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
they don't
blank
even
slateism.
understand. They don't even see it when the minority groups that they kowtow to just actively are like they're basically ethno nationalists, and they just lobby constantly for benefits for their own group only, exclusively for their racial group, and they receive them from the government, and then the people, the liberals defending them are just like, oh, that's fine. That's reparations for history or something. It's
Well,
fucking. It,
I,
it breaks their own moral.
I've seen some people actually try to defend that, where they've basically stated that like, oh, white people have never faced like a genocide, so they can't really, they can't hold a torch to this stuff. And I'm just sitting there like, have you even looked through history?
Well, yeah, it's the thing. These people have not looked through history in any regard beyond what they are taught in public school, which is really not much at all. You're basically taught the World War II creation myth. Uh,
Well, public schools today, even bringing it back to the Christian thing, are like churches.
yes.
You don't speak out against the churches, or else you're a heretic. If you say anything that goes against what the churches have taught you,
Yeah, they
then you're
don't.
just
They say use critical thinking and the fucking the sophistry. I mean, not sophistry. The Socratic method and use critical thinking. But when you say something out of left field, that all goes away. They turn to emotional antidotes, to fallacious arguments, and to outing you as a heretic. And it's the education system fails even in a really good smart school. That is still going to be true.
well, yeah. I think it's what are the lemur uh kind of thing where basically most people, if instructed to, would basically jump off a cliff. Um, and they only basically care about their basic needs, and anything that would challenge their basic needs, they would, do as heretics in that.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people don't even think about these beliefs; they just hold them.
Yeah,
And
it's lemmings. That's what it
yeah,
is.
they're just a lot of people, no matter what the age or the time in history, will just hold the belief that is socially acceptable, that will give them the most rent, as you will, the most social rent, and they don't care about it fundamentally. And they'll just hold that belief, and they'll run around parroting it, and they don't even bother thinking about it. It's just the thing that they're supposed to say to receive the treat from the machine, like a dog.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you were talking about the other day with Diogenes, the Pavlov's dog thing, where basically you'll say you're unemployed, and then that'll trigger something in their mind,
Yeah,
and they'll get a dopamine rush from it.
by attacking me for being an unemployed bum, they get a dopamine rush from appealing to the broader social elite plan for them, and they'll assume that they'll be praised or given a promotion, or like, maybe not even not explicitly, but implicitly or subconsciously, they assume something like that they're going to gain social favor for doing it. Uh, Even if they have no underlying moral basis besides the Lumau, I hate unemployed people.
Yeah. Uh, it's just something that always is interesting how these people will basically say they're their own person, and then follow right along with everything society does, like the hot topic people basically. Um, they'll talk about how unique and how their pain is and all that stuff, and then they'll be shopping next to, another cutter the day after.
Yeah, it's when people don't understand when ideas are coming from other people, and then they think they are fundamental to their being, they're deluded. Like people become deluded when if they have an idea that was given to them either through like a teacher or a society or even a philosopher they don't know the name of or they haven't studied. If they've given this idea and they don't understand where it came from, then they're being controlled without them knowing. And that's the key. You're not free unless you know where your ideas are coming from. Like you don't have free will if you don't know what ideas are influencing you each time, and then who they're from, and then what they entail, and what their motivations of the original author entail. Like you need to curate your mind and its ideas and its philosophies. You can't just like take everything as the truth value without thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Speaking about that, something that a person wanted me to talk about in this stream about nihilism was Epicureanism, uh, where they basically thought that nihilism would lead into Epicureanism, and I kind of disagree with that because Epicurean or Epicure or something like that. He basically argued that the only true
Pyrrhus.
way to be happy was his three rules to life are like based on how to be happy, and a lot of people seem to think that he's hedonistic. Um, Whenever mostly it was just be around your friends, uh, do jobs that you want to do that make you feel fulfilled, and self reflect a lot.
I mean, it's sort of self-help stuff. That's just more of the pragmatism of how to live in a society with no underpinning. And I've read a lot of the Greeks recently, and they had a lot of great advice. Like I read Seneca, the Roman philosopher, and his views on like time and and interacting with broader society have really gave me a good guideline of how to the function in our current society, which has no moral basis or goal or movement forward.
Oh, I was just reading chat for a second.
Why not buy a
It's
plot of land, live away from civilization? Yeah, you won't have animes, but you'll be completely free. Uh,
That's not even like we could still be connected to broader civilization to some levels, but
yeah. I,
the
I don't think it matters functionally being like you don't need to slave away to own your own land on paper and to just like live in away from everybody. It's just fundamentally, is your time free? Can you do what you want with it? And is that thing that you're doing fulfilling? And if as long as you maximize your time output relative to uh, you minimize your non-useful time and you maximize the time you want to use, and you just continue that all through your life. You don't need to bother trying to scrounge up in the rat race to so you can have infinite time. You don't need that. You can just maximize it for yourself.
well, I think Epicurus even talks about that to a level where just the want to have more things is itself just an empty need.
It is.
Where if you basically just live in the material world, you'll always just feel empty and always feel
Yeah.
the need for more and
When
more
you
and
buy
more.
a new product, you will have a little buzz. You're like, oh, I bought this product with my hard work, and I'm now enjoying it. And then it'll grow staler and staler, and then you'll need another one. You'll need another product to get that dopamine rush, and it's just not something that is particularly productive or useful for you to do.
But yeah, this was the person talking before too was talking about how they think moderation is a meme, but mostly because of like drugs and stuff. How they thought that you couldn't take drugs in moderation, but I honestly do think that moderation is a good thing, especially if you're not doing it in a hedonistic way, just to get like a buzz later on from the same drug. But things like alcohol, no, not alcohol, water or something.
Butter.
There's a moderation, and then there's a level that'll kill you by just drowning yourself.
Well, I think the golden mean stuff is kind of a meme. Uh, it's not really moderation. It's min-maxing. You min-max to your goal. You don't need moderation's only the case if you lack any restraint and you need to constantly remind yourself to moderate things. But I think the golden mean, which is like present in like Eastern philosophy and in all these New Age spirituality shit, all this New Age spirituality shit, it sort of is a catch-all term to, and you just should min max. You shouldn't go in the moderation. You should definitely just fulfill your goals as best as you can.
Well, I think they're kind of interchangeable to a point.
Maybe.
But basically, they were arguing that moderation can't exist to any level. Where I was basically with a thought process that some things need to be moderated to a level where some things can be healthy to you, even at moderate levels, but can be destructive towards you at higher levels. That was just an interesting thing that they had said before.
Sure. Yeah, carnivore. I'm gonna get a job, but I'm not gonna try to like slave away so I can get a house to myself later or something like that. Like I'll maximize my free time as I can and save up money. That's what I'll be doing.
Yeah, you said you were a writer.
I've been writing, yeah.
Do you like sell books or something?
I don't sell books. No, I'm still writing. I haven't published anything. Yeah, I'm writing still. But that's definitely that would be the ideal. Is that the writing that I do enjoy doing would be profitable enough to where I wouldn't have to. I could minimize my non-writing time or non-fulfillment time to a small degree. But I'm just gonna fucking maximize the writing time I have over what, like 20 years. I'm not gonna bother delay gratification and delay my own goals and fulfillment in life to just so I can have like a piece of paper that says, "Oh, I own this piece of land." That's not relevant to me.
Yeah, I think whenever like Carnivore was not speaking earlier, but typing, with the idea of just going buying a plot of land, like even that to some degree is materialist if you're not happy with just that plot of land. Living by yourself is fine, but talking more about Epicurus and stuff, having your friends there to live alongside you and in these little like communes and stuff is a much more fulfilling, so that you're not just alienating yourself and sending yourself into a spiral of I don't know, loneliness, because we are still social creatures.
Yeah, but I think people can get over loneliness with training and experience.
Yeah, I mean,
or depending on their personality. Yeah.
I think you have to have a certain personality to be able to get over loneliness completely, because
I do agree.
That will also lead into like the nihilistic void and stuff.
Yeah. I've always had a personality where I just like I fucking when given the choice to interact with people or to do other shit, I always do other shit, and it's just my personality. People find that fucking insane, but that's just how I've always lived, and I guess whether it be nature or nurture, that's just me. I'm not gonna bother trying to force myself to be to change to not to be a social creature beyond the minimum I need to fulfill my other goals.
Yeah, I think that also goes back to leveling stuff, where everyone wants everyone to just be the same. They can't really wrap their heads around an outlier.
Well, I guess so. Well, it's an extrovert world. If you're an introvert in the world based around appeasing people, getting as much exposure, as much favor from people as you can, so they will give you shit, and you can go get like this nice job or whatever. Like it's a world based around extrovertism, kind of because of capitalism. Although I guess extroverts, well, not always. Sometimes it'll be the introvert who can toil away at something. Back in the older days, when work was more when an individual's work was more important because technology was less, and so it was pretty important to be stoically able to do something like plow a field for 8 hours.
Well, I still think that introverts are the people that are creating the technology for us today.
Yeah, but
Because you see all
extroverts
these,
control all the other shit. Like,
well,
I
they
mean, I
control the
guess maybe.
capital and such. But I think the introverts are the ones who are actually like in the labs doing it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but fundamentally, even the qualified introvert engineer is just controlled by the extroverted investor stockholder person who used their connections and their extrovert behavior to manage a company or just through their family nepotism or whatever what have you.
I mean, I think that's always been throughout history. I think the extroverted have always been the people that had connections to other people to, get products to sell. Like I think they were mostly the merchants, while the introverts were mostly the scientists and such.
Well, yeah, the theologians back in the day were all the introverts and the monks and all that. But uh, I'm not gonna try to force myself to be a fake fucking extrovert seek rent because like I physically feel pain being extroverted with people I hate. Like when I fucking go around and I have to talk to a normie and entertain their babble for extended periods of time, I feel physical fucking pain and disgust.
Well, yeah, the old adage of like "fake it till you make it," that stuff. That
Yeah,
that
I'm
always
not
ends up
faking it. I'm done
that
faking it.
that always ends up hurting the individual trying to do it. Because a lot of these people with Christianity, whenever they try and fake their Christian beliefs and like the "fake it until you make it" thing, they usually end up going crazy and stuff. Just because it's not their true self. They're not being fulfilled in any
It's not
sense of the way,
narcissism,
except for
SMG.
physically.
It's I have a set of interests. The more normal people have a different set of interests, and because we lack common ground, the interaction gives me no benefit. That's all. It's not that my interests are inherently better. It's just that I get nothing out of it.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff here is all about min maxing, so it if his time is wasted on certain people, even even if it would give him social acceptance, he doesn't view that as one of his values. I
Yeah,
think I said that right,
I
right?
guess it would be autism, but it's just like yeah, I'm not gonna fake my interest or my standpoints um, to sort of appease people socially. And because my interests and standpoints are sort of like faggoty and esoteric, I'm gonna have a hard time interacting with normies.
Well, I mean, you can look at like studies and all this shit that show people in certain fields would rather talk to people in those fields than just talk to some random stranger on the street. Like
Yeah,
you would have to say the exact same thing about that type of person, where a doctor would rather talk to another doctor than the doctor would rather talk to some random retard on the street.
I understand. Sometimes you have to. I'm just minimizing when I have to do that. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, we all have to live pragmatically to some degree.
But a really big dwarf. I played D&D a few times, but mainly I DM'd for my group of people that I hang out with online. I've done a few DM campaigns. Usually somebody like goes on a internet hiatus, and then we have to cancel the campaign. But yeah, I ran a few campaigns, and that's always fun. Fun little creative process. I always make
Yeah,
up
it
my own
helps you.
stories with some like weeb shit in it, and they get triggered with I like the weeaboo stuff. Yeah, so Mexican. Some people can stand talking to everybody, and some people cannot. That's me.
Yeah, you're simply an extrovert, still Mexican guy.
Yeah, don't try to believe everybody just like can does that, and their fucking neurons fire in the same way that makes it easy. Let's see.
Uh,
So you were talking about
yeah.
Puritanism, but to me, I haven't read up specifically on it, but it sounds more just like like in the original sort of Buddhist Eastern philosophy. Oh yeah, be a moderate, just do what makes you happy, sort of thing.
Oh, you mean Epicureanism?
Yeah.
Or oh, the moderation thing was kind of separate from that, but
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I think that moderation with like human contact and such is a good thing because it gives you more time. I basically just use the words interchangeably between moderation and min maxing Um, and I could be wrong about that, but it's just my personal vocabulary.
Yeah. The uh, well, I just when I hear the word moderation in relation to like spirituality and how to live, I always picture like either a new age cultist or a some sort of like a Buddhist or something, and it's sort of aiming to there's this one thing that exists. There's this one set of of the mean that exists, and if you're on the mean, you'll all be happy. But I don't think the mean has any inherent value. I don't think there's any inherent uh, value to returning to the average. It all just depends on what you're talking about.
Well, I don't think moderation is good in every sense. Like people say everything in moderation. I think it's good in some senses, but things like drugs and such, I can certainly agree that any at all is bad for your body. Like anything that would be toxic to your body at all is bad. The only thing I could really even think of that would be uh, an outlier of that is like snake venom, where you can make anti venoms out of it. I don't I don't even know why I thought about that, but it is one of those examples where things in moderation can be helpful instead of harmful.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying it's bad at all times, but there's no inherent value in moving to the mean of something. It just depends on what
No,
it
no,
is.
it's honestly the idea of the radical centrist.
Yeah.
Being in the middle of everything is the best because you're not hurting anybody and all that. And I think that is the meme that it should really be called, is just the radical centrist.
The radical centrists.
Yeah, like just in all manners of life, is all it really is. Instead of, because use that term more as like just a political thing, but can apply it to other things.
I guess so. The Buddha is the radical centrist, you're saying?
Sure.
All right.
I mean, it was basically no. I mean, Buddha, was basically like live a good life and reincarnate to be a better person and all that such. So you get off the wheel, and that's all.
The wheel.
The
Um,
wheel, yeah, the wheel of reincarnation or whatever it is.
yeah. I never gotten. I always found the story interesting, but it was always just a story. I could never like adopt Eastern spirituality.
Oh, I mean, I view that as like every religion. That's why I view myself more as like a tragic atheist, because I wish I could believe, but I can't fool myself
Yeah,
back
yeah, I
into
would
believing
agree
that.
that if I could just freely believe in Christianity and then get all the social benefits of going to a church and being in this group and having all these people who fundamentally have like are good Christians and have this belief, I think that'd be great. But it's just not going to happen
Well, I
in
don't.
the face of
For me,
empiric reality.
it's not even the social benefits of it. It's more like the personal benefits that believing that somebody is always there to help you along the way, believing that a God is always with you. I think that eases life a little bit, in terms of like stress and all your views of social responsibility and such.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have a group that is actively not degenerate and at least has some good moral basis, if you find a good group of Christians, then it would be beneficial just on a pragmatic level to be a part of that. Uh, but if you can't force yourself to believe, I would feel being disingenuous to them just for that to seek social rent would be something I would not be willing to do.
Oh yeah, I mean, we both agree that the fake it till you make it stuff is bad.
Yes.
So, and it's just bad on a number of levels.
Yeah. Yeah, faking your core beliefs and your actions publicly is just something I've always found repulsive. It's just something I always found distasteful, and I'm honest to a fault, and it's honestly got me in trouble a lot of times. And because of that, I it sort of pragmatically has closed off some pathways for me, but it's how I like to live, and I'd rather do that. You know.
Yeah, I mean that is why I follow Plato and stuff, because it is about true fulfillment and not just this, fake social fulfillment. Because even social acceptance to a point would still be just an empty goal, because all you're really getting is just social favor from other people.
Sure. Well, Addis, it's not wanting to be something else. It's that if you follow the logical chain mentally, philosophically, of like, okay, I want to be a Christian, so I'm going to fake it until I get some confirmation bias dream from God that makes me a Christian. Like that's even if I got that, that's gonna be my response. I'm not gonna start believing that the fucking the Jesus, you know, fucking came back from the dead and then turned water to wine. I'm not gonna start believing in things that break with any reasonable empiricism, just because I LARP as it.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of talking about at the beginning, where like me and you cannot force ourselves to believe this stuff again.
Like technology.
Or if you were ever actually like Christian,
Well,
were
that's the
you?
thing, Addis. I don't really like outside of just the fucking making a little bit more money. I don't want to be the extrovert Chad, God King of society. It's not something that interests me. Like I don't want to. It's not. I don't want to bother putting any effort into that. I don't care. Cute
Yeah.
potato. Hola. Tism topics. All right.
Yeah, they my name in the server now is Cute Potato. I thought I was gonna be leaving it for like a week at least, but
No, don't
put
worry
it
about it.
back in.
Anyways, the myths are a good way to instill morals into brainlets.
For sure.
Um,
That's why we try and teach children young about Christianity so that they have those morals instilled.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's all brainwashing, no matter what you do. Like, if you go to a state school, there's state school brainwashing. If you go to Christianity, if you go to church or as a kid, you'll believe those stories for a while. If you like, I believed those stories too, and then I didn't when I, was faced with empirical fact.
Everything to some degree is brainwashing whenever you're talking about children.
Yes,
The only thing really is if it's socially acceptable brainwashing or not.
yeah, but uh, so there's some people who have a certain personality, like a fucking autistic analytic personality. And when they have an idea in their head, they're going to autistically analyze it. And if there is any truthful fault with that, with other observation, it's going to break, and they're going to change into something different. And when you see these introverted people who have like weird ass beliefs, it's because their brain will constantly reject untruthful things or things that lack any inherent moral value. Uh, and it's easier to live as a dumb normie who doesn't question why an idea is in their head or why they act a certain way. But some people, their head just does not let them do that. So
Yeah, as ABC in the chat says, he's like, my life would be better if my IQ was 15 points lower. Yeah, sometimes know, ignorance is bliss.
yeah, if like fucking what Logan Paul is not very smart. He literally just copies what other people do around him and then is macho, and he is extremely fucking successful. And he is like what, like 90 IQ on a good day.
Hang on, give me 1 second.
Is that why so many people who broke away from the Holocaust mythology are autists? Well, yeah, so makes a guy. It's because they value material and being socially engaged with people over um, being truthful to themselves and other people, and that's fine. You can value it that way. I personally do not. I doubt I need to learn how to do it a little bit more pragmatically, but I'm not going to fundamentally lie to myself and other people to get ahead.
We were actually just talking about that. That's the fake it till they make it
Yeah,
belief.
yeah, yeah.
We were talking about how that's harmful not only to the individual but to the people around you and being disingenuous to the people around you.
Don't cover certain topics. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, still, like at a certain point, when you've gotten to in a deeper relationship with somebody like that as a normie in broader society. Well, yeah, even
Well,
if you don't talk about them, they'll talk about that to you and other ways. It's just, uh, like if like let's say somebody asks you about a hockey game, then you autistically say that, oh, I don't like sports. Then suddenly, to the average sport watching normie, which is most of them, you're an out fucking cast, and that's just one example of many stupid little things people do, and it's just something I have little interest in fucking placating.
I don't really know how much more of this book we have to talk about now.
I'm just responding to the chat. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Not really. I watched a few episodes of that anime you suggested just to get into the weeaboo
What,
shit.
Kino's Journey?
Yeah. I watched like there was an episode 0, I think, with the tower or whatever.
With the tower, yeah, Tower of Babel.
And all I could think was 9/11.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I saw the tower, I was just like, "Oh great, that's gonna get 9/11, isn't it?"
Yeah.
It was interesting. Even linking back to this conversation of how the normies are basically just the people that want to continue to build the tower, and how the kid was basically wanting to get away from it.
Well, yeah, it's like, well, if we lived in a society where people were a bit more, moral and reasonable, yeah, me being introverted has no fucking justification. Then I would agree that I should just go out in society and stop being a faggot and be truthful. But since we live in a mad society, gone fucking mad with like liberal normie psychosis and all this other shit, then yeah, it's kind of reasonable to avoid it. If it
Yeah,
was less fucking mad, I would agree.
the last time we were talking, yeah, we were agreeing that the society is sick, so that we shouldn't basically participate in a society that we disagree with.
Well, yeah. Why would you like if you secretly if you go and participate in society normally, but you secretly believe it's all shit and things need to change, yet you pay people money all the time to do stuff, and that goes into their wallets and then the tax coffers into it just perpetuates everything. Nothing's going wrong. That's just another cent for the elite who are going to continue down their path. Then you fundamentally you don't care enough to change your ways. You should at least aim to minimize what you contribute to the society you dislike, like minimize it to a reasonable level. Avoid giving things to it when you can.
Yeah, it's the whole idea of min-maxing.
Yeah. Give
Yeah, I still
anime
don't see.
recommendations for people who don't watch anime. All right, Legend of Galactic Heroes, Kino's Journey, Gunbuster, and Hyoge Mano. Those are some good recommendations for people who don't watch anime usually.
Yeah, I still don't see how people can honestly, like, truthfully disagree with your point of view on this, about how you just want to disconnect from the society, basically.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's just fucking. It's the normie psychosis. It's the since I'm doing all this, you also have to do it, but I don't. I fundamentally do not.
Yeah.
And then that's always been true forever. Is you fundamentally do not have. You're not compelled to do much at all in life, and then despite whatever the normies protest or their attempts at like social bullying, you don't have to do anything, and it will enrage them continuously. But they don't have any ground to stand on. There's no overbearing moral or metaphysical truth that they can proclaim that will compel you to act. No, it's psychosis to once when you see someone who's outside of society to simply run at them, attack them with slogans in an attempt to make them conform to the society you're in. Especially if that society is fundamentally sick, like the one we live in.
Well, to take it even a step farther, the people who are even on our side and disagree with society as it is, they still continue to participate in society to a large degree. and then shame the people like me and Jeff who basically try to disconnect as much as possible from society. That's the psychosis, really.
Yeah, that's the psychosis. Well, like you don't have any there's no like fundamental moral that would justify me acting in like participating in a bad society. So the only motivation is really it's the normie psychosis. You want the person to conform. That's it. It's just confirmation. You want the herd to be whole. It's just sort of an animalistic social thing. It's not. There's no deeper thought behind it.
I don't really know what else to talk about right now.
Yeah, we've gone on for an hour.
Yeah, I mean, nihilism isn't that deep of a subject.
Well, no, it's literally it's like saying it's like talking about black holes. Like black holes exist. The nihilistic crisis exists. And you can't deny its existence. You can try. You can run away from it. You can call people who acknowledge its existence black-pilled retards. But fundamentally, it's a sword of Damocles looming over your head, and it will always be there. And until you address it in a healthy, constructive manner, you are deluding yourself.
Yeah, I still think Epicureanism is one like good way to address it. Not like just to basically be happy with your friends.
Boy, be happy with
like
friends.
not even taking like the physics and stuff of it in, but just the psychology of it, of just be happy with your friends. That's it.
Well, yeah, any method that will lead to psychological fulfillment and suppression of goofy animalistic needs is a way out of it, or at least it's a practical method to live morally without resorting to hedonism.
Jared Taylor got on here. I don't think that will, will ever happen.
I think
Goes on
about
stream
tons
today.
of different things all the time, Matt. It's not just big picture issues, but just different things of all variety all the time. And because of that, I like writing about them. Yeah.
I think people just think about what they actually care about. That's about it.
Yeah,
Like if go ahead.
yeah, it's not black-pilled to acknowledge reality. What is black-pilled is to engage in reckless hedonism to reject the reality itself. Like I've never advocated for reckless hedonism or defeatism. Yet every time I bring up the sort of
The actual
unrealistic.
problems.
Well, somebody will say something stupid, idealistic, unrealistic, and I'll point that out. Like they'll say, okay, we're going to reform the United States government from within, politically, with no money, no interest groups, and just using the sheer grassroots political will. I'm like, well, okay, that's not going to happen. Or X, Y, Z, and A. No, that's not going to happen. And they're like, no, you're wrong. You're just black pilled. Like, no, that's just the fucking the reality of the fucking plurality we live in.
I think they call pragmatism black pill, basically.
Yeah, like there's a different like just because I understand I am one of like what 300 million people, and that even if I had millions and millions of dollars, I would only have a marginal effect on society. Just because I understand that fact and then live with it and don't do pointless things like being an ideologue, uh, does not make me black pill.
Like, well, there's no problem with having like an ideal, but
Yeah.
you have to be able to work pragmatically towards that ideal is the problem.
Yeah, working and there's steps to be had working pragmatically, and that is optics cucking, and that is gathering money for interest groups, and that is playing real politic games. It's not going on the internet and yelling at people.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you want to play within the normal bounds of society, you have to do all those things.
Yeah, you got optics cuck. You got to gather money for your interest group to lobby the government, and then you got to build. Well, you can build your base, but I don't think yelling at autists on the internet is the best way to do that. There's one way.
Yeah, I think there's only a couple ways that right wing groups have ever taken over governments, and it's very small revolutions that where America had like a 3% of their colonists revolt and such. Granted, France helped, but still. You have military revolutions, or you take it back through the government.
Yeah,
And if you can't
about
really,
some guy said, "Fuck the system, set up a new one using generous welfare state." Unfortunately, I thought about it more pragmatically. I thought it was a good pragmatic solution, but it's not because the government that is giving out the welfare just has a million options to fuck with any large scale dropping out of society by people. So it's like they can make a diversionary war and draft all the people who are unemployed. They can just target the welfare to for their own political gains, and they can definitely do that within the current zeitgeist of only mild anger. So I
not
don't think
only
it's a
that,
practical
but
way.
as the current empire with the most military strength in the world, they can basically just keep printing money. Like there's a point where it could become too much, but for the foreseeable future, they could just print infinite money and it wouldn't matter.
Well, not necessarily, but it's definitely a high amount of money they could print. They have more than enough leeway to control society right now. They're not under any pressure.
Yeah, as long as like the economy doesn't go to shit, then they can still keep printing. It's basically all it really means.
Honestly, the drafts and big scale high def diversionary wars are just not a good thing because it will kill the manly part of the population, leaving only soy boys and women. Uh, that'll then degenerate society like we saw. So
That's what happened in Germany.
that's what happened in
Like,
the United States.
well, I mean, even Germany to a larger extent because all the men joined the Nazis and stuff, and
Yeah,
they were
Germany became a
slaughtered a lot.
supercucked in a
Yep.
couple of short decades afterwards. Japan as well. God bless Japan and the two nukes and the creation of the fucking anime.
There was that one guy who didn't surrender until like 1990 or something.
uh, the only way I see it happening is if there's a disparate bunch of groups like the Civnats. Somebody asked, how would I see a Republican revolution possible? So a bunch of Civnats, a bunch of alt-right, and even a bunch of far-left people all unite. They do a bunch of interest group work, optic cucking, take a bunch of money, and we get a constitutional convention. And then and then another fucking whatchamacallit, a requirement is that then constitutional convention we have through state governments does not become co-opted and does not and actually fixes a lot of the problems we have with the Constitution. So that's like the only way forward I could see peacefully would be using the state's constitutional convention powers.
That's one of the very few ways forward without
Yes.
violence.
So yeah, so
Which
if
is one.
there's a few local organizations aiming to do that. So if you find any near you, I would suggest supporting them with what you can. Constitutional convention definitely needs to happen.
That's the only thing that I really agree with the Young Turks on is they want to get a
But
constitutional
yeah, that's
amendment
the
just to get
problem.
money out of politics.
That's the problem. Is the constitutional convention? Everybody will be there, and the far leftists will try to like implement like even
Yeah,
cuckier shit than we have, and the corporatists will try to implement even cuckier shit than we have. So it could end up even being worse than what we have now. But
yeah, that's the
I think
entire problem with the blowback.
yeah. But I honestly think that even then, because our constitution's already basically been destroyed by activist Jewish lawyers, then getting a fresh one, even if it's worse, would probably be better.
I think we just have to make more safeguards in it the next time around if we do it.
Well, yeah, it's the Constitution has fallen by the wayside. It's now a fucking meme to like the Constitution. If you remember the 2016 election, uh, people like Rand Paul and Ted Cruz were seen as like radical memers just for believing the Constitution, and then that was like a short change over 10 years. Just fucking Obama's administration basically there was enough time there culturally for the Constitution to fall out of favor pretty fast.
Oh yeah, people at this point want to burn the Constitution, and I mean, I used to be more like black pilled about that and thinking that that would be the only way forward is just violent revolution destroying the United States, but
Yes,
Constitution
Anonymous, I
can
understand.
stay.
The Japs had tentacle porn and boat girls before the 1800s. They've had good taste for a long time.
Good taste. Learning a little bit more about you, Jeff.
I don't like Cancel or Tentacle Porn Room. I was just reflecting that they had the strange cultural silliness.
Yeah, it just kind of became fused with Western culture.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with Dirk Perpman. If we could live in a society similar to fucking Japan, but for white people, that'd be great. And the only way you're gonna do that is like a secessionist movement. It's the only way you're ever gonna get that is a secessionist movement. There's no other way besides like some racist military coup that will never happen.
Yeah, I think the military is just too co-opted at this point to ever do it.
Well, the military is 56% phase. It's full of good people, but they're going to be Simnats, and so there's not going to be a white ethno state from the military or from fucking taking over the halls of power. You're going to have to secede from the United States and do it then.
The good thing about the secession angle is that according to polls right now, about a quarter of all people want their state to secede from the Union.
Yeah, well, it's because the federal government just does stupid, fucked up shit all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that centralization of power is like
it's no longer
the
necessary.
Worst thing ever. Well, I don't think it's like the worst thing ever, like some people think, but I think right now in time it is detrimental.
It's detrimental, and and people will be both happier, and even the elites might be happier because they could then like influence these little states, do what they want, different states, and then all the different elites would distribute among them. And everybody would be happier overall if we just lived in a more fucking more confederate society. We don't need a fucking giant world police military anymore because we have nukes. And even if we give up our power projection, then we'll just get slightly worse free trade deals, which who cares?
Yeah, I mean, even with trade deals, we wouldn't really need to have bad trade deals.
Yeah. All right, so we went for an hour 15. Oh, Addis, thanks for stopping by. Have fun in Normieville. Off to work, boys. Got to pay the wage cut taxes. Good luck at work, goys.
It'll be good, goys.
Yeah, so unless you have anything else to talk about, let's shut down the stream now.
Not really. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. This is just a follow up with the guest from the previous week who wanted to talk about nihilism. Anybody else who wants to come on, just message me on Twitter, on Discord, or whatever, and I'll get you on. Thanks, guys. Oh yeah, I'm still editing the Bible video together. I'll have it out Friday. I just gotta fucking mess with the audio and render it and do a bunch of shit. So I'll have it out Friday, and I should have faster output on those, maybe like once or twice a week. Okay, so see ya.